Hello, everybody. Happy Friday night. It feels like forever it has been forever since I've been on here. I'm so happy to see you. Took some time off this summer and just kind of did the summer thing. Hung out in the yard, did the lake thing, did the kayaking thing, and now I'm back here in my Zen Den to share some crafting goodness with you. So, my name is Mandy Van Havermont, and I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up from Grey Eagle, Minnesota, and I am so very happy to see you here tonight. I am going to be making a couple of cards using an online exclusive stamp set called Greatest Adventure. It's a distinctive stamp set, so I will explain kind of what that means as we go on. But it is a very fun stamp set. It is it's really cool. So let's get flipping the camera around here and let's get going on our crafting projects. All right, and I've been changing my desk around, so if things look a little different, it's because they are a little different. So I've been down here kind of practicing what my configuration is going to be, but bear with me while I deal with the changes. I finally got a stand-up desk is what happened. I've been wanting a stand-up desk for a long time, so finally got that. Okay, Greatest Adventure. This is the stamp set, and my husband and I are very much into old antiques, and he is into the engines and the trains and things like that. So when I saw this stamp set, I knew I had to have it just because of that steam locomotive there. I just think that is so cool, and it is the perfect image for a masculine card. So we're going to make some cards with this. I've got two different cards to make with you, but before I get started on making cards, I want to show you this trick. Now, this is what they call a distinctive stamp. It is a red rubber stamp. That really doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but it's distinctive. So if you look at this image, it's got a lot of detail in it. And sometimes our stamps like this don't ink and don't stamp as nice as we want them to. So I've got an example here. So I'm just going to ink this stamp up, and this is copper clay, and it's a really juicy ink pad. But I'm just going to show you. So I'm going to stamp that down, and I don't like how that looks. It's very blotchy. You can't see the details. It just doesn't look right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use a spoon. Just a spoon. I keep a spoon in my craft room, in my carousel of tools with my markers my pens and my scissors and things like that. And I'm just pressing that ink down into the ink pad. So I'm going to go ahead and clean. Here we go. Grab my chamois and just clean my stamp just to get all that excess ink off of there. Okay, and I usually, if you didn't see what I just did there, I wiped it on my jeans just because I like a dry stamp. So now I'm going to ink it up, and you can already tell that it's a lot different, but stamp that side by side and look at the difference that makes just by pressing that ink down. And what happens is when we store our ink pads store upside down. So the pad is actually going down, so that ink is running down to the top of that pad. So it settles down onto the top of the pad right there. And so when we push it down, it allows the stamp just to pick up a little bit of ink that it needs, and it allows us to make a nice crisp image. So there is your tip for distinctive stamps. If you find that your stamp is just kind of blotchy, try pressing that ink down with a spoon or some kind of tool. I use a spoon. That's from my kitchen. So, all right. Let's go start with our first stamp, or with our first card. This will be our first card. Let me see here, make sure I can, yep, you can see. So this is going to be the directions. What we're going to need is a piece of gray granite cut at 8.5 by 5.5, scored right down the middle at 4.25. We're going to need another panel of gray granite, and this one is 3 3/4 by 5. We're going to need 3 strips of Pebbled Path, 1 by 5 inch strips. And then I'm going to take a piece of basic white that is 3 by 3 3/4, and then a piece for the inside, so a piece of basic white 4 by 5 1/4, just a basic panel. So first we are going to, let's see here, I'm going to pull in my metal plate embossing folder, and the metal plate embossing folder is the perfect, guys. It makes like the metal plate on a truck and on all that fancy stuff that the guys like so much. I can tell you that my son metal plate everything. So we're going to emboss this. To emboss, this is a 3D embossing folder, so we're going to follow this recipe down here. So we're going to use plate number 1, which is this one here, the embossing folder, and then plate number 4 right on top of that. So I'll run that through my cut and emboss machine. And then that is going to give us 3 strips that have that metal plate design on that. Love that. One of the best embossing folders we have for masculine cards. Okay, so let's stamp while I am ready to go. And this would make a great retirement card. You can change up the sentiment if you like. The sentiment that I'm using is going to be the one from the stamp set. So I'm just going to center that straight down and straight up. I've got Pebbled Pink ink. Pebbled Path ink, if I didn't say that. Oh my word. See, some things just never change. I still can't talk accurately. So, doesn't that look beautiful? I love, love, love how that turns out. And Pebbled Path is kind of one of those interesting inks. It's going to, actually, I think, you know what? I think this might have been Gray Granite on my sample, but we're going to do it with Pebbled Path. And then I'm just going to stamp good luck on your new adventure right up there in the smoke. So beautiful, so cool. Don't call a masculine card beautiful, maybe. Well, I'm going to call it beautiful. But what would you call it? Handsome? Nice? And then just on the inside, congratulations. Simple, right? All right, so let's put together our card. So I've got my piece of 3 1/4 by 5 of Gray Granite. And the reason that I took that size is because I'm going to cheat. I'm going to line these strips up on each edge of that Gray Granite. And then this one here, I'm just going to center it in there. So it takes the guesswork out of placing those strips. You wouldn't need those strips. You could place them directly onto your card front. But you know, this way it is kind of perfect. And I like that. So I'm just going to line it up to the edges. And if it's a little off, that's okay, because it's going to go onto that same piece. It's kind of a monochromatic look. And right down there. And then we're going to just center this last piece right inside. And if you'd like to, you could use the green glue. That's going to give you a little bit more wiggle room when you're placing it down, but you don't have to either. So we're going to fold and burnish our card base, just like that. And see, then it looks like it's nice and centered and perfect. And it looks like we're just amazing card makers, which we are. So let's adhere that down onto our card front. All right, and then this piece here, I did use Gray Granite on my sample. It dried lighter, but it's still darker. I think I used Gray Granite on that sample. Again, guess what? There's no mistakes in card making, and I like them both. So I think, in fact, when I was designing the card, I designed this card for a swap quite a long time ago when these first came out, these online exclusives came out. And I think I went back and forth with trying to decide if I wanted to do Pebbled Path or Gray Granite on the ink. So there you go. Now you can choose. And I'm going to put that up just a little bit. It's a little bit more pleasing to the eye rather than centering it exactly perfect. It's a little bit more pleasing to the eye to put it off center towards the top just a little bit. So just like that. And now I'm going to embellish it with, I've got these really cool adhesive back texture dots. Hey, check it out. I did the sentiment the wrong direction. Did you guys catch that? We're gonna have to restamp it. Shucks. Okay, let's put some gems, some adhesive backed dots on our card. I love this. I think this is just the coolest. That is such a cool card. I love this train. So let's restamp our inside. There's two sides to this. Lucky for us, right? So let's open up our Pebbled Path one more time and stamp congratulations on the inside. All right. Aren't you so thankful that there's two sides to every piece of paper? I do this quite often, where I stamp incorrectly. All right, so there is card number one. And this again is with the Pebbled Path ink. Let's see, this one here was with Gray Granite. So you can choose which color of ink you would like to use. There is no right or wrong. So, all right, card number two. I had so much fun making card number two because it's messy. And I like messy. I ripped up the edges, and I can't wait to show you how I did that. And I think it's just so neat and so vintagey looking. So here are our instructions. Let's clean our stamp, because I'm going to change up my ink color. All right, so I am changing my ink color on this card to Pecan Pie. So for my pieces, I'm going to use a piece of Night of Navy, 8.5 by 5.5, scored down the middle at 4 1/4 again. A piece of Pecan Pie, 4 by 5 1/4. I didn't trim my Very Vanilla, so I need to trim my Very Vanilla. You know, I pulled it out. That's something. And I always have panels of Very Vanilla and basic white cut. So I always have a box full of 4 by 5 1/4 panels. So I just grabbed 2 out of the box. But we need one that's 3 3/4 by 5. And then one for the inside that is 4 by 5 1/4. You could make that smaller if you wanted to. And then I've got 2 pieces of Designer Series paper. This just so happens to be from the Take to the Sky paper pack. So here is what we're going to do. And you're going to need a blending brush also. So we are going to open up our Pecan Pie. Get rid of that. I'm going to ink up my stamp. And remember, I've got 2 sides to this paper, but I want to make sure that I stamp in the correct spot. So I'm just going to place my piece of Designer Series paper down on the bottom, but I'm not going to adhere it. That way, if I do have a, oops, I can flip my paper over. So I'm just going to center this, and it's got enough room up and down. So just stamp that straight down and straight up. And doesn't that look kind of sepia? I like that. But I'm going to take and make it even a little bit more vintagey looking. I'm going to take my blending brush and add a little bit of that Pecan Pie ink. Not a ton, not a lot, just a little bit on the edges and on there, just to make it look that old vintage feel. I love that look. I've said it before tons of times, I am into the old vintagey, antique-y looking stuff. So there is that. Okay, now you're going to want to make sure that all of your ink pads and everything are picked up at this point. And the reason why is because we're going to make a mess. So I've got a pair of scissors. You can use whatever kind of snips or scissors you've got. And we're going to rough up the edges of our paper. And this, like I said, it's going to make a mess. I'm making lots of dust and mess down on my desk here. But that's part of the fun of it, is it makes it look old and vintagey. And then you make a mess on the floor that you get to clean up later. We love that, right? Okay, so I've just roughed up one edge each of my designer series paper. Okay, so I'm going to attach that down onto my sepia looking panel here. And I'm just lining it up with the edges. Okay, so I'm just roughing up that edge that's going right in there. Same thing with this. I'm going to put that along the top. And then we're going to rough up this whole panel. So, and that's why I didn't do the outsides, because we don't need to do things a million times. So, isn't that fun? And if you don't like those edges popped up, just push them back down. That's okay. I think my scissors are sharper than I think they are. I just about cut that piece. These are not fabric scissors. Don't touch the fabric scissors with this. This will ruin your fabric scissors. All right. One more edge here to go. So much fun. Okay, so isn't that pretty? Oh, I love it. And you've seen a lot of people where they'll peel up corners and everything like that. I'm not quite that wild as to, I don't know that I can do that, but I'm going to do this. If you want to peel up corners and make it even more vintage looking, do whatever your creative juices are saying to do. So, and if you wanted to come back in with your blending brush and get those edges a little darker, that would be just fine too. I'm not going to do that today, but you could. So now, I didn't like it just to have this pecan pie panel all straight and perfect. So we're going to burnish that one up too. I have seen with the pecan pie paper too, where people have made like a faux leather look, where they like crumple the paper up and they do this to it, and then they take a blending brush and go like that over the paper, and it looks really neat. It looks like a leather look. It's really cool. Gotta get that corner. It's not enough. It's not ruined enough. Okay. So there is our panel. And I'm telling you, this is why you don't want to have any ink out, because you will get ink, like dusty things inside your ink pad, and you don't want that to happen. So we're going to fold and burnish our panel here, or our card, our Night of Navy base. And I'm not putting any kind of sentiment on the front of this. I kind of like cards sometimes that don't have a sentiment on the outside, especially just to have a few on hand, so that you can make them whatever you want to, just by adding a sentiment to the inside. Isn't that cool? Oh, I love that card. I think that is just so neat how vintage it looks, how roughed up it is. I love it. I am going to make this, I need more sympathy cards, So I am going to make this a sympathy card. I'm using a sentiment, so sorry for your loss. That's also from a online exclusive, Quiet Reflection. Really a good stamp set for, and it's another distinctive stamp set. So if you're having troubles, if you have this stamp set and you're having troubles getting that image to be how you like it, how it looks on here, try smushing your ink pad down with a spoon. That'll help. This is another distinctive stamp set, but it's got a great, lots of good sentiments for sympathy cards. So let's open up our pecan pie. And I'm making it this way. Look at that, I did it the right direction first time. Woohoo! All right, so let's just put that right onto the inside of our card. So, perfect sympathy card right there. So I have a couple of other things to mention while I'm flipping my camera back around. Right now there is currently a kits sale. So if you go online to the online store, kits are up to 30% off. So that is a fantastic deal if you like the kits and things like that. The other thing that was just announced today, it's pretty exciting. There will be a stamp sale this coming week, from October 7th to the 9th. They're going to have 15% off all stamps. So if you're wanting to get either of these two stamp sets, the Quiet Reflection or the Greatest Adventure stamp set, if you wait till later this week, what would that be? Monday to Wednesday? Tuesday to Thursday? I don't know. I haven't got a calendar in front of me right now. But if you wait till October 7th to 9th, you can get 15% off of those stamp sets. So I hope you have a fantastic weekend. It was so good to see all of you again. I will be back next week, but not on Friday. I'm probably going to try to get in on Thursday because I will not be around on Friday. So I'll try to get on Thursday and get another, some more ideas for some card making in. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic week and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.